Hi, I'm going to get you the episode in just a second, but I want to tell you about something really exciting first. Transcendence, a transformative virtual retreat happening this November 8th through 10th. If you're seeking deeper connection with your loved ones in spirit, if you're on a journey to strengthen your spiritual path, if you're going through grief, Transcendence is designed just for you. We're going to have about 20 expert speakers. These are some of the best people in the world, and we're going to explore topics like mediumship, near-death experiences, connecting with angels, animal communications, signs from behind, even an experience to connect with your loved ones in spirit. This is a live event. This is not canned. You'll be able to interact with the presenters. This is not just another event. It's really a chance to elevate your consciousness, expand your spiritual awareness, and connect with a supportive community who understands the journey you're on. Visit us at events.humanitix.com/TVR. There's going to be a link below, but that's events.humanitix, humanitix.com/TVR, as in Transcendence Virtual Retreat, to find out information and reserve your spot today. Let's transcend together. I hope to see you there. Hey there, before we jump into the episode, I want to let you guys know I really appreciate you using the fan mail feature. And if you don't know what that is, if you look in the podcast description, the very first thing will be send me a text. So you can send a text to me. I just got one from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Thank you very much for sending it. But know this, I do not get your name, your information, email address, text number, nothing, unless you put it into the fan mail. So you asked me a question. Unfortunately, I can't respond to it. So please, if you use the fan mail feature, and please do, make sure you include your name, email address, and or phone number if you want an answer back from me. And now, on to the episode. Close your eyes and imagine. What if the things in life that cause us the greatest pain, the things that bring us grief, are challenges? Challenges designed to help us grow, to ultimately become what we were always meant to be. We feel like we've been buried. But what if, like a seed, we've been planted? And having been planted, we grow to become a mighty tree. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this way of viewing life. Come with me as we explore your true, infinite, eternal nature. This is Grief to Growth, and I am your host, Brian Smith. Hi there, welcome to Grief to Growth, where we explore life's deepest challenges and mysteries. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and whether you're a first-time listener or you're a longtime friend of the show, I'm so glad you're here. At Grief to Growth, we dive deep into topics like self-discovery, resilience, and healing. We seek answers to life's biggest questions, like who are we? What are we doing here? Where do we come from? And where do we go when we leave this life? Today, we've got a truly inspiring guest. Her name is Summer McStravick. Summer is a personal growth coach. She's an author, a podcaster, and the creator of a powerful energy technique called Flowdreaming. She has spent the last 18 years guiding people to manifest, heal, and grow through this transformative practice. You might know Summer from her time working with Louise Hay, or perhaps you've come across her popular podcast, Flowdreaming, or her latest book, Stuff Nobody Taught You, 40 Lessons from ME School to help you stop being miserable and start feeling amazing. In this episode, we'll delve into some life-changing concepts like the power of emotional reconditioning, how to heal through grief and disappointment, and how to embrace the universe as your partner in creating a life of flow and abundance. Summer's journey is one of resilience and renewal, having personally faced life-threatening illness and using that experience to redefine her life. She'll share her insights into overcoming grief from body betrayal, climbing out of feeling purposeless, and how to know when it's time to reinvent yourself. We'll also get into some profound ideas about breaking free from what she calls lack thinking and what it really means to be a conscious creator in partnership with the universe. So stick around. This conversation is going to leave you feeling empowered, hopeful, and ready to embrace your own path of healing and growth. And don't forget, you can join the conversation after the show at grieftogrowth.com/community, where you'll also find more resources, connect with other listeners, and continue your journey with me. So with that, let's get started with Summer.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me here. That was a wonderful intro. I hope I can get to everything. Oh my gosh.
It's a lot, but we'll get there. Yeah, it's great to have you here. I did use a term at the beginning from your bio, flow dreaming. So maybe we could start with what is flow dreaming and how can it help people?
Yeah, just to dive right in. So I've spent the last 24 years, almost 25 now, practicing flow dreaming, and I've been teaching it for about 20 and wrote several books about it, of course, the podcast and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at heart, it's a practice for manifesting, but it's also a practice for healing and sort of deepening your intimacy with life, the universe, or God, source, or higher power. Um, as a manifesting practice, it is a way that you can sit down for 15 minutes every day and create stuff. And you create it inside yourself first. You create the feelings, you create the essence. I call it the emotional endpoints. And the side effect of this is if you're kind of on the woo-woo, side and manifesting and all that,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're actually training the universe and aligning the universe and the outside world. When I say universe, I mean the actual literal outside, everything outside of you, to what it is that you're holding as most sacred inside of you, most important. Um, if you're less woo-woo, it's also a practice known as emotional reconditioning,
Hmm.
which is where we are saying to life, I don't want to wait for permission to feel a certain way. Because we've all been taught our entire lives, you have to wait for things to happen and then you feel things in response to them. That
Mm-hmm.
is the way everything works. Fall down and hurt your knee, then you get to feel sadness and pain. Somebody compliments you, then you get to feel a little pleasure. It's always a response, all the feelings that course through us. And the thing with life is, it's not there waiting to tell us all the things that we want to feel. So most of us just end up with this buffet of whatever is thrown our way. So
Mm-hmm.
with flow dreaming, we're actually practicing feeling states. We are practicing states of, I feel healed today. I feel whole today. I feel reinvested or alive today. I feel whatever it is. We practice those states and we don't wait for the outside world to give us reasons to feel them. So in a way, we really turn the cart before the horse. It's a very old saying.
Mm-hmm.
But as we practice these states, something interesting happens. There's so much talk about neuroplasticity and the effects of, say, meditation on your neural networks and how, like, you actually you deepen and resculpt them. In flow dreaming, we're doing the same thing. We are actually changing our neural networks. We are creating new pathways. But unlike with meditation, we're creating them around our emotional selves. Um, so we can take the feelings that we have had triggered in us or had to respond to life with over and over and over, and we can say, all right, I am now going to instead create a new set of pathways. This one is all about joy. I have nothing to feel joyful about in my life, admittedly. I mean, maybe, I don't know, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to see if I can summon up that feeling. Because if I do, I'm doing multiple things. I'm expressing to the world and the universe, this is what I'm after, and this is who I am. So in my spiritual practice, I believe that everything we experience becomes a piece of us, a part of us. It's inscribed in us. For me, it's sort of the definition of our soul. Every single thing, good stuff and bad stuff, it's all in there, just jockeying for position. And I'm hoping that I create more good stuff and feelings in my life. So I'm on a roll to purposely up the good stuff, and the bad stuff will still continue to be there, the challenges and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I am trying to grow the amount of good stuff. So when I'm actually feeling these good, positive states purposefully, intentionally, without having permission from the outside world or reason or rationale, I'm actually increasing something inside of me. I'm subtly changing and shifting who I am. So non-woo-woo, again, you are actually shifting your own psychological state. You are purposefully creating a new layer or level or wellspring of feelings that before you kept waiting for a medication to give you or a person to give you or a relationship to give you or a boss to give you or outside validation to give you. So it's extremely empowering inside.
Mm-hmm.
As a manifesting practice, of course, the people, everybody knows this by now. They didn't always used to. 20 years ago when I was teaching this, not everybody knew it, but what you are inside is kind of like what the world is reflecting back to you. That's like a basic idea. Mm-hmm. So if I am walking forward every morning and I'm feeling like today is wonderful, I feel blessed, I feel alive, I'm not afraid of transition and change, I'm in a state of flow, I'm in a state of belief that all the right things are happening right now, even if I don't see them. I am so curious what today is going to give me. Let's say I come at the world bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning. The world is then, to me, it's like a house of mirrors. It's reflecting me. All my decisions now, everything is sort of reflecting what I'm aligning to and my energy and my being. Mm-hmm. So the long game that I play with this philosophy is that the world begins to more and more respond to what I am giving it, as opposed to me constantly just trying to keep up and respond to the chaos of the world of other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's the long and the short answer. Flowdreaming is a practice that I do for 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, multiple times a day, 30 seconds. And it has 3 simple parts to it. Do you mind if I keep going?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. So it's got 3 simple parts as the practice itself. And this is what makes it really different than a lot of other personal growth philosophies that tell you like, stay high vibe, stay in the vortex, keep your mind, up there. And it's like, I can't do that. What does that mean? How do I do that? If you do the practice, it's like, I always say it's like yoga. You do the exercises. There's an actual the exercises you can do, but there's a whole philosophy behind them as well. Mm-hmm. So we take 3 things and we combine them together. We take emotional endpoints, as I was describing already, the ways that we intend to feel. Then we couple that with guided daydreaming. So no meditation required, which means this is really great practice for people with busy minds, ADHD or neurodiverse minds. It is wonderful for creative people who can sink into a novel for 3 hours and it's 2 a.m. before they fall asleep because they are so in that book. It's for people who are allowing their mind to kind of help them on their journey as opposed to be quiet. So we use guided daydreaming as a way that we just slide into a very particular state called flow, which there's a lot of talk about flow nowadays. Mostly it's like a hack, a brain hack, get into flow. And it's got kind of like a masculine energy around it. For me, flow is the opposite completely. Flow is when you are outside of time, outside of space, when you're daydreaming so deep, you don't know what's going on around you. You like have to call yourself back and you don't know how long you were spaced out for. That's flow by definition. And you can be operating at peak efficiency, doing a task around you, whether you're imagining your golf swing or whatever, like the typical ways. I decided years ago that I wanted to apply it to communication with the universe or God. And I wanted to be in flow in a spiritual state, with a spiritual interactiveness instead of something physical around me. So you will slide into that state. It's a state of very deep communication. We literally lose track of who you are and where you are. Maybe we could even demonstrate it a little bit later if you want to. I can kind of bring you there. Sure. But that's it in a nutshell as a practice that we do daily. And then all the other stuff I've been talking about kind of, it's just reshaped the way I see the world and have interacted with so many things philosophically, because flow is also about movement. It's about transition. It's about constant change, our resistance to the change or our embrace of it. And it's something that still teaches me, like even now, every day.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, I'm testing out a new feature. I'd love to get your feedback on it. It's called Fan Mail, and you can send me a message right from the show notes of the podcast. So look for the link that says send me a text. You can ask a question for a future podcast. You can suggest a guest or just give me any feedback you want. Just remember, it is one way. I can't text you back, and I will not have your name, your email address, or your phone number unless you include it in the message. Let me know what you think. time for a real quick break. Make sure you like and subscribe. Liking the video will show it to more people on YouTube, and subscribing will make sure you get access to all my great content in the future. And now back to the video. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, getting into this emotional state, and I think it's really interesting. It's something that I kind of discovered, and I work with my clients on, because a lot of times we feel, and I wonder if you get pushback from people saying, "Well, I can't make myself feel happy. I can't make myself feel gratitude." Because we are so accustomed to that's a response to something outside. So how do we get over that resistance?
Think of it as radical ownership of your feelings. And I have a word for this in my teachings. It's called power leak or power leaking, meaning when I am dependent on someone or something else to make me feel a certain way, I have given my power to something outside me that now gets to dictate whether or not I get to feel that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And we do it unconsciously. We don't even realize we're doing it. But then we walk around without that feeling, and then we get mad at ourselves for not having it. We get mad at life for not giving us the opportunities or the support or whatever it may be to feel it. So the very first thing we do is we reel that back in. And if you may not be able to practice happiness like right off the bat, especially if you've been in what I call the dead zone. The dead zone it's kind of a metaphor, but out in the Pacific Ocean, there are areas where the oxygen it's just a mess. It's a hot mess. No fish can live there. It's full of bacteria and plankton that have just sucked all the oxygen out. You go into the dead zone and there is nothing there. And sometimes I feel like in our lives, we enter pockets of these dead zones ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen, like grief, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't like the emotions. So we're just like, I'm not going to have any emotions now. I don't like the ones I had, and I don't know any way out of them. So I'm just not going to have them. And I call it like emotional flatlining is another term that I kind of colloquially use for this.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say feel happy, you're like, I don't even know what that feels like. How? Like, why?
Right.
I understand I can't I don't have anything to feel happy about, but I don't even know how to conjure happiness inside me. So we step it back a notch. Well, what can you feel? What can you feel? Can you feel curious today? Instead of feeling dread, right? Dread is kind of like curious, but curious with a bunch of lack, icky feelings around it.
Right.
That's what dread is. But then there's curious without lack or dread, which is, I don't know. I feel open. I feel possibility. So we start with whatever feeling you can next get to. And maybe some listeners will recognize Abraham Hicks in this. Just kind of going back in the day when I spent a decade working with Louise Hay and Dr. Wayne Dyer, actually at Hay House.
Mm.
And part of my work was to produce many amazing shows, audios, webinars, podcasts, anything audio or anything streaming on the internet. That was my department.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting to speak with Jerry and Esther Hicks, who popularized Abraham. And that was one of their central messages all the time. What can you feel? That's a little bit better. So sometimes I hear like little bits of my past kind of popping in, it all creates a quilt eventually of your teachings. So, so we start with that. We start with what can you feel next?
Yeah.
And it's not to say you can't feel the bad feelings either. Like if you have to feel grief, obviously you're the expert on this one, but grief is a friend and an ally, in my opinion, even though it sucks to go through.
Yeah, it
can
be
still a friend and ally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny as you said that. I was reminded of my daughter Shaina, who passed, and she was always very curious about stuff. And I remember when she first got diagnosed, she had rheumatoid arthritis, and they diagnosed her, and they were sending us to the lab to get blood work done. And her attitude was like, I wonder what it's like to get your blood drawn. Whereas a lot of people go into that with dread and fear, and she would always watch whenever there's a procedure on it. She was always just curious. So the same event that could be happening to someone else they would feel dread about, she would always be curious about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. On a similar note, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer when I was 43.
Mm.
And my kids were in grade school still, like they were seventh grade and fourth grade. And I thought it was crazy unfair. Like, why would life do this to me in my early 40s? I mean, and I think that was one of the points in my life, like you mentioned in the intro, body betrayal. That for me was my first recognition that I thought I had a deal going with my body, that we were going to live long. And if I was vegetarian and I went to work out and I did CrossFit, by the way, I did all those things, that it would just be my buddy and no problems.
Sure.
And my body had other plans. And it said, you can do all those things. You're healthy as you could possibly be, but now we're going to give you some cancer and you can figure out what to do with that. And it was for me, I'm going to circle back to grief a bit again here. I really grieved that. I grieved the relationship. I grieved my presumptions. I grieved the potential of my own death and not being with my family. And it sent me into a real deep place of, how do I want to encounter this? How do I want to encounter this entire experience of a mastectomy and radiation and chemo and reconstruction? There's a lot because it had spread. And I realized I could continuously encounter it with fear and dread and anger. Like, you broke my heart, body. You broke my trust in you. Like, how can I ever trust you again to stay healthy? And even if I do all the right things, I still can't trust you to be healthy. Like, how do we rebuild that? It's almost like a broken trust in a partnership. In fact, It's exactly like that. Exactly the same.
Sure.
So I really had to decide how I wanted to approach the whole thing. And I think what really pulled me through largely was, one, the practice, Flowdreaming, right? But also I said, look, I can brace for this or I can embrace it. Which one is going to feel better all the way through? And like, I have that same feeling about grief. You brace for it or you embrace it. And it's a weird thing to say. But embracing is like, for me, my heart opens and I'm giving and I'm understanding and I'm holding it, I'm being with it. And doing that, I realized a lot of things, especially about fear. And I think the more grief we have piled up in our lives, the more fear piles up as well, because then we fear more grief. And it's like this crazy snowball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, yeah. So we have this crazy snowball of the fear going, and then once we start to snowball the fear, to go back to the sort of way I interact with my life, call it manifesting or whatever you want. The more that we start to engage in fear and create that feeling in us over and over, the more life pivots to start to respond to that fear in us. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
We get more of what we are expecting. So my like vision is less fear, more curiosity, more good feelings, more creating that inside myself, who I want to be, what I want to be. And when I hit these awful roadblocks, all the kinds of grief that we've all experienced, embrace, and then in my case, flow through it. What feelings do I want to have around this experience instead? Well, I mourn and I have loss, but I also feel joy and gratitude for the time we've had and so forth. So it's a definite mindset shift, but telling people to just shift the mindset is so hard. It's so hard to stick with. It's like an aha, and then we go right back to how we are. So this is why I do this practice, so that I can strengthen it, so that there's an actual thing that I'm training my neural network to do every single day. Yeah. So I don't have to feel like I'm always dropping the ball and snapping back to a previous way of thinking or feeling.
Yeah. When you mentioned you feeling like your body betrayed you, I think we could all relate to that in some sense. And you talked about doing all the right things and kind of having this unspoken covenant with
Yeah.
with your body. And I come from a religious background, and a lot of people have that covenant with God. It's like if I just do all the right things, then God will take care of me. And then when something inevitably comes along in life that we don't want, then we just, oh, you betrayed me. There must not be any God. I'm mad at God, whatever. So I think people, even if you can't relate to the body betrayal thing, you might be able to relate to that feeling like we've had loss, right? So we lose someone. And it's like, no, we had a deal. My child was supposed to live to be an old man. They're not supposed to die at 15.
Yeah, exactly. And we make those kind of unspoken agreements all the time. If I do this, I'll get that. If I do this, I'll get that.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me into a concept I call the trifecta of trust. Three kinds of trust that get broken over and over in our lives. And I don't advise people to try to avoid having your trust broken. If you're not wrecking things, you're frankly not living.
Mm.
My analogy is Disneyland. It's a hot mess in the daytime of sticky hands and blowing paper bags and candy wrappers and just, yeah.
Mm.
But it means it was a great day at the park. But you have to come out every single night and clean it overnight. So the next morning it looks sparkling. And if it didn't look that way, it means no one was there. Nothing was happening. Nothing was being loved and enjoyed and experienced.
Mm.
So let's go back to this trifecta of trust. There's trust of others. I trust you, you trust me. I trust that people will like me, or I don't trust people don't like me. I've always been an outcast, and I will therefore become very self-sufficient and not expect anything from you and not ask for anything of you. We've got trust in relationships that can be broken in many ways. There's trust of self. I don't trust myself to make a good decision. I've blown it before. I tried before and failed at it. I've got to play small. I've got to not try to do that again. I don't trust myself. And then there is trust of what I call the universe or God or your higher power. And that's where a lot of the unspoken agreements, trust of self also includes trust of body, right? My body could betray me unexpectedly. And where did that come from? Trust of the universe, though, trust of God is, we don't even recognize the agreements that we've made until they're broken. They're just assumptions.
Right. Exactly.
About how life is and how it should go.
Yeah.
But when they break, we suddenly realize I made a one-ended deal. And you have to remind yourself, I don't know that source or God actually agreed back. That was all me.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to control things. I was trying to control this relationship through these assumptions and expectations. But I don't have that control in this relationship because I'm in a partnership.
Yeah.
And my partner may have different ideas, may have different needs, may have different ways of doing things. So I have to check myself and recognize that my trust of the universe or God has to be a dance. They're my dance partner. I can't be always leading. We're going to take turns in this case.
Yeah. I think what you said there was so profound, and I want to make sure we emphasize that point, because I don't think people realize. I know people, we don't realize we have these agreements. They're not only unspoken, they're subconscious, and we don't know that we have the agreement until it breaks, and then we go, "Wow, this wasn't supposed to happen because of this deal that we had." That, and I love the way you put that our partner never agreed to.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, and once you, I mean, we've all had things that have broken in our lives. We've been fired, we've gotten cancer, we've lost somebody we love, we've been betrayed in one way or another. I mean, just there's a whole slew of them, right? And every time it's like we're being asked to step up into that situation. And I personally hate the whole personal growth thing. It's a test, it's a learning experience, oh God, it's just like, really makes me dread going to metaphysical school of life. I mean, that's very sucky feeling to me. So I don't look at it like I am being pushed through a lesson unwillingly. I look at it like life is full of so many potential experiences. And I'm dancing with my universe partner, my God partner. And some things I'm going to experience are delightful and deliriously fulfilling, and others are empty and wretched and forever seeming long. And worse, don't even give me information. So I'm left absolutely in the dark with this. But what am I being asked to become in every one of them? Like who, the good ones and the bad ones. Everyone is giving me an opportunity to know myself a little better and a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's funny, a lot of our broken trust and grief, it does come around other people and the loss of other people or other people rejecting us or passing on. And we recognize that, we're living in this world of relationships. I always joke that if Source wanted us to grow as souls and we said, fine, put me on a planet and I'm the only person there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There'd be nothing to grow with or from.
Yeah.
So our relationships are this steaming soup of possibilities and potential in every single one. And, your child showing up and having that happen, that was one of the hardest things that you two could commit to each other to go through an experience like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to people, your worst enemy is the same way. Can you imagine being a soul and saying, I'm going to show up and be your villain your entire life? I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to pursue you. Why would you do that for me? Why would you do that with me? Well, you're going to see who you are in the face of danger and fear and helplessness. You're going to see who you really are. Do you want to ever know that? Well, then you need to have something that's going to push that and help you shine in that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of I'm totally waxing like philosophical right now, but it's a reframe that makes me feel at once very, very powerful inside. Because again, I am being constantly asked, who am I going to be? How do you want to feel? But I'm not just being a victim to what's going on outside of me. I'm also, like I said, it's a dialogue. It's a communication. Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to experience this year. I want to experience a fantastic transition into a new life. And that's actually real because as I said to you before we started talking, I'm empty nesting right now. Like this is my very first day with nobody in the house but me. Mm. And it's a big house. Yeah. and it's not just that I'm alone because I really love being alone. It's that I am starting an era. I'm starting multiple decades of no longer full-time mothering. Mm. Yeah. And no one handed me an instruction book and said, here's what you do next. Nobody gets that. Yeah. You just kind of stumble along and figure it out. Well, do I want to throw myself into my career or my relationship with my husband? Or do I want to re-engage some friendships? Or maybe I should take up knitting or volunteering, right? I'm being asked right now to actually reconstruct myself. Yeah. So there's grief, but from that grief again is, okay, the change is never going to stop happening. It's constant. Here's a bigger wave of change than you're used to. Right. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. And I get to program myself. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. We talked about that before. So just to fill people in, you were saying that your son's just gone off to college and it's, so that empty nest feeling. And I was relating to my daughter graduated from high school, my older daughter went off to college. And that's not for some people an acceptable form of grief. It's like, well, you knew this was going to happen. It's coming. But it is a grief. It is a loss. And you identify as a certain thing. I identified as when my daughter was born, it's like, okay, well, now I'm a father. And as long as she was in the house, I'm her caretaker. And when she goes off, it's like that relationship changes. So I want to give people permission to grieve things like that because they're real losses.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi there. I'm really excited to tell you about my latest ebook. It's 4 lessons that you can learn from the near-death experience without going through all the trouble of dying to learn them. I've been studying NDEs for several years now. I am completely convinced that not only are they 100% real, but that there's some very universal wisdom that we can get from the near-death experience. And I've distilled that down in this book into 4 short lessons. And I've also given you all the reasons why I believe that NDEs are absolutely real. So go to www.grieftogrowth.com/NDE lessons to pick it up for free. www.growth.com/NDE lessons. I hope you enjoy it.
No, totally. I would say grieve everything.
Yeah.
maybe not quite so blanket, but agreed. Like even a couple getting married, those partners may grieve the fact that they are picking a path now and putting their feet on it. And that old path of having options and perhaps being footloose and not having to be accountable to somebody else, that's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a mixed feeling, right? You're excited. Of course, you want to be married and be with that person the rest of your life, but something left also.
Right.
Like when I talk with people who've lost their jobs, they talk about it like they've lost a limb. And I get it, because your identity was the job. You worked for that. You felt, here's another one of those unspoken agreements. You kind of felt like, I gave everything for the last 5 or 10 years. I thought we had an agreement that I was valuable, that I was necessary, that we would stay together. And then one day HR sat me down and says, you're out and you need to be out by the next hour, clean out your desk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you it's like a relationship that just breaks right in half. And then you realize, I gave so much of my work and my life and my hours of my life. And so I assumed I would have some value. But then I just realized I don't.
Yeah.
I'm replaceable. I'm exchangeable.
That just happened to a friend of mine. It's really interesting because he's 60, he was 60, 63, 64 at the time. And he'd been working with this company for like 20 or 30 years. They offered him a package that he couldn't refuse. It was like they didn't fire him. They didn't call him and say, you're gone. They just said, here's a great package. And he came to me and he said, Brian, I am like depressed. I feel worthless. They didn't want me anymore. I'm like, you earned this. They just paid you a bunch of money. Why don't you just go relax? But he just, it was a loss for him. Now, good news is 6 months later, he did get over it. But that initial thing was like, he felt worthless.
Yeah. Yeah. That's grief.
Yeah.
That's grief. So we barrel through grief all the time. So, okay, another thing I do in my work is I teach people about emotional states, all of the emotional states, and what they're useful for. And I liken them to crayons in a box. You have bright, sunny, happy crayons. Everybody loves to color the sun yellow. Everybody loves that crayon. That's happy, joy, fun, warmth. But you take an old, scrubby, gray, sad, gray crayon, and you think, I don't want that feeling. I don't want that feeling of hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but you can't color the rain clouds in the sky without that one. You can never draw rain. And rain is what fertilizes your life in the earth. So maybe we should look at that feeling of hopelessness and say, what's it giving to you? Why is it talking to you? Why is it knocking on the door of your heart and saying, help me, I'm here. I'm here for you. We're together in this. It's asking you to do something. It's asking you, your purpose has felt broken. Maybe we can find another one. Can we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, some colors aren't meant to stay, but they're there. They're fire alarms telling you, do you want to keep me or do you want to put me back in the box and pick up some different colors? And a lot of us, though, we get stuck. We get stuck in these colors.
Right. I got to say, this might not mean anything to anybody else, but Frankie Beverly just passed away like last week, and he was the lead singer of a group called Maze. And there's a great song called Joy and Pain. And the big line is, joy and pain are like sunshine and rain. And you can't have one without the other. Because we need, as you just said, we need the gray and the clouds and the rain to help us to grow in a certain sense. We may not like it, but these things they're tied together.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, here having this human experience, we're getting to taste everything on that buffet table.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, otherwise we would just be walking up to a buffet table with nothing but cakes. And,
Right.
that'd be amazing for a little while, but you would never get to taste a sardine or, a can of Spam or peppermints. Or having this variety is, again, showing us all the little pieces and parts of ourself. And again, grief and pain, I think, are included in that. And, go ahead.
I wanted to go back to because when I asked you about the flow dreaming, and I assumed that like this has come out of your cancer situation, but it didn't. It sounds like that this predates that. So a couple
Yes.
of questions. One is when you were diagnosed, did you feel a sense of like, okay, the flow dreaming didn't work? Because and that the reason I ask you is a lot of people have this idea of manifestation. It's like I am going to create the perfect life. Nothing bad will ever happen to me because I am the creator of my existence.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Remember, life is about relationships above anything else. It's about you discovering who you are and your purpose and your skills and so forth. But we're
Mm-hmm.
doing it like pinballs in a machine with all the levers. We're bouncing off other people constantly. Or we're just hermits living in the mountains, and we'll learn some certain things about ourselves, but not as much. So, having all these relationships means that we're going to, by definition, experience pain from them because people are going to leave and they're going to pass on. They are going to disappoint us. They're going to do all kinds of things. But when you're manifesting, you can't say, I never want people to disappoint me, leave, or pass on. I mean, just stay in God's state in that point. I mean, that's it. We're not here to do that. We're here to feel those things and
Mm-hmm.
to understand and experience those things. So my kind of manifesting is the exact opposite of gimmicky. It is like I said before, I play the long game. And I know that there's only one thing I have true authority over, true power over. One thing. That's it. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. Everything else, I'm having to involve other people, other permissions or rejections. But my feelings, nobody can make me or control me or force me. They're mine, all mine. So if I recognize that is the source of my greatest power and strength, then I get to start saying, here are the feelings that I'm choosing to have.
Mm-hmm.
And as I choose those feelings, I become literally more of those feelings. Like this conversation we've been having, trippy as it sounds, it is now baked into you, into your soul and your being for, I'm assuming, eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. So, Brian, you're part of me. Welcome to Summer's world.
Yeah.
I will have you for eternity now. But it's true because
Mm-hmm.
our energies, our souls, if you will, our quantum bits and data
Mm-hmm.
have just come together
Yeah.
and exchanged.
Yeah.
So, as I'm creating who I am, I'm knowing that the more that I'm creating a person who's curious and joyful and feels very hopeful and curious, again, curious about what happens. This is the me I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
As I feel it, I am becoming it. If I practice these feelings all the time, I become more and more and more of them. Now, life tends to want to stay in equilibrium. It's kind of a natural law. So if I'm becoming more this, life is swinging around saying we have to stay in equilibrium with her. We can't be totally different. What is she sending out that we can reflect back perfectly?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where around me, my life starts to give me more of the beautiful and blessed things that I'm feeling inside myself. I'm safe. I have loving, close, intimate, open relationships, people I care about. I have good friendships, found family. I take care of my body to the best degree that I'm able to. I am taking care of my mind and my creative self. Right. So I'm saying all this to the world, and the world then kind of has to shuffle around and figure out how to not mismatch that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get this overflow around me. I won't say that. I rarely try to manifest certain objective materialistic things, which is what most people do. I need $1,000 by tomorrow because I have to pay for tooth surgery. You know,
Yeah.
you couldn't pay $1,000 for tooth surgery. Who am I kidding? $5,000 for so, for me, that's really kind of a short-term way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're challenging the world around you to try to match something that, one, you're saying, I don't have, I'm in a state of lack, make me full.
Yeah.
And life's going to be like, you're in a state of lack. So we're reflecting lack back. You're standing in front of a mirror and you see lack, and what you get is lack. So one, that doesn't really work.
Right.
But if I'm saying instead, I have all the wherewithal, all of the funding, all of the material supplies that I need to keep and stay healthy and to take care of my body. I feel that. Everything I need is out there. It's in the world right now. I know it is. And it's found me. And I found it. So when I encounter something that needs to be repaired or I have to spend money on it, I've got it from beautiful and wonderful sources, by the way. Always beautiful, wonderful sources in my world.
Yeah.
Practice that every day, and things do change. Oh, I didn't even answer your question about predating. Oops. You still want me to?
Yes,
We'll
please.
move on.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I began the practice in the year 2000 when I was working. I had my own company publishing a magazine, and it was failing. And I was telling the world at that point, please make this magazine succeed. I hadn't yet learned about emotional endpoints the way that I do today. I just said, life, God, if you want me to succeed in life, this is what I picked. Make it happen. Help me. It helped me, all right, by making sure the magazine absolutely went under. And I had spent $30,000 of my own money 20 years ago as a 26-year-old, which I worked to the bone and promptly lost. And that's one of those things where, again, you'd say, why would you do that to me? Come on, life. I did everything right. I worked 24 hours a day in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And life said, because you actually have a bigger feeling inside of you, a bigger want. You want to make a difference. You want to reach people. You want to change their thinking. You're trying to do that through a magazine as your vehicle of communication, but that's not going to be the one that's right. So we're gonna make sure this is gone, and it's going to hurt, and you're going to feel like a failure, but you're going to move forward and take some very valuable things from it. And I did. And that's actually when I got my job working at Hay House, and then learning about and being one of the first people to have a podcast ever. My own show, Flowdreaming, is 20 years old, 20 seasons now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's forever in the podcasting world for anybody who doesn't know. I'd never even heard of a podcast then.
I'm a crone. I could think there's probably about 24 of us still that I could name.
Yeah.
But it set me right up for where I needed to go. And that's when I started to learn every want that I have is actually connected to something deeper. It's connected to a feeling state that I really do want to experience. So you can pick the things to move toward, the material things, but those are just paths. They're just like, well, I hope it's this. I think it might be that. Maybe it's this job. Maybe it's this partner. Maybe it's this money. But everything, every path you've picked is because there's a feeling behind it. I want to feel validated. I want to feel purposeful. I want to feel like I'm doing something with deep meaning. I want to feel well paid. I want to feel like the universe is giving me back all that I need and more. I mean, that's why most of us want money.
Yeah.
It's not just to buy a nice dinner.
Yeah.
I want safety or freedom or both.
Yeah.
So that's what I asked for.
Yeah, that is so important and so well said, because we do tend to focus on the things when we really want the feelings. And this, it brings me back to a debate I used to have with my friend all the time when we were younger. I want to be happy. And I said, if I could be happy sitting in front of the TV, just drinking beer or whatever. And as long as I'm happy, that's important. I don't need the stuff. I don't need to be a billionaire or a millionaire. You really want the feeling. You don't want the things. And we get confused, and we try to. I think a lot of people do. They try to manifest things, as opposed to what you're saying is you just feel the feeling, and then the things that you need will come to you.
Exactly. The right things will pop themselves into place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another idea behind flow and flow dreaming. I always ask for the easiest path. Give me, if I want to let's go back to like finances, right? Because it's ever popular.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have enough money to pay all my bills. Why do I want that? Because I will feel safe. Why do you want to feel safe? So that I don't live in fear and experience potential pain and loss. Okay, so your deepest feeling is you don't want to experience loss. You want to experience safety. Yes. Great. So when you're talking to life about money, why don't you communicate to it? I want to feel deep safety, and I want to feel it come to me in a way that is the easiest, the quickest route with the least amount of resistance. Don't make it hard. I just want to be in it. I want to have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because a lot of the feelings and experiences that we're actually really, really craving are ones that we haven't had. And that's why a lot of people are really craving safety, because they've always experienced struggle. They've done that feeling and that emotional state over and over. They become masters at it. It's so familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're actually asking the world is for something I haven't yet experienced or felt. And that is actually the definition of growth, new ground.
Wow.
So I would say, I don't want to experience struggle or trauma or difficulty. I want ease and flow. Easy is not lazy. Easy is the path of least resistance. And another idea behind flow dreaming is that we all have that path of least resistance. There's the path of most resistance, absolute blocked and stopped and frozen. And then there's, just like the ace and the two in the deck. Both cards are in the deck. There's always going to be that polarity.
Mm-hmm.
So give me the easiest path, because I don't want to dilly-dally on my way there. I don't need to anymore.
Yeah.
Bring it to me in whatever form.
I think the word flow implies that, right? Water flows. It doesn't try to go through the rock. It follows the path of least resistance. And I think we can learn a lot from those natural things. You talk about having a relationship with the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, as a suitor. How does that change our relationship? How does that change our lives?
Well, remember how I said earlier, it's like a dance partner? When I call the universe or God my suitor, it can be kind of, unorthodox, heretical. Most people are God the Father. I am the child. I do as you say. If I'm good, I get a reward. If I'm bad, I get a punishment. I like to tell people, play with shifting that around. Just expand your creative thinking for a day. What if instead you're an absolute relationship, a partnership? And this partner loves you, adores you, thinks you are the best thing since sliced bread, and wants to show you off to the world. If you are snotty nose crying and melting down one day, they're holding you and saying, it's okay. I don't judge you. If you are strong and powerful and going for it, they're like standing up in the stands cheering. That for me is a strong partnership. It's a partner where you can say, here's what I thought that you were going to give me and you didn't. Why? Right? The communication is open and clear, and maybe they'll answer and maybe they won't. But it shifts things to a more level field. And it also reminds me that, I think of this, I'm on a ship and I'm captaining the ship. I'm telling the ship and everything aboard, this is where we're heading. This is where we're going. But if the ship is in a dry dock, it's not going anywhere. It's in water, right? It's in the ocean of life.
Mm-hmm.
The ocean is my partner. That's the universe. That's my suitor.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, I'm going to steer. And the ocean says, but you're steering within me. We're doing this together. If you don't steer, I'll just take you wherever I want to take you.
Yeah.
If you steer without me, you're not going anyplace. So I'm always conscious of this. I'm going to steer the direction of what I want to experience and become next, but I know I'm doing it in absolute partnership with my suitor.
Yeah.
And my suitor says, I love you.
Yeah. That is, it's really interesting because we've got, we tend to swing in extremes as human beings. So we've been taught, a lot of us by the church, that we are victims, as you said, God the Father, God the Creator, God the Master, God manipulating and controlling everything. We're like little puppets or whatever. And then we've got the other extreme, which some people come to with this idea of manifestations, like, okay, well, I am just going to create the life that I want. And I think, for me, the truth is always in the middle somewhere. And I love the way that you it's a partnership. It's a relationship with source or whatever, and guides and other human beings.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My friend Calvin Chin always talks about when people say, I'm going to manifest this. So it's like there are a lot of minds out there. You're not the only mind in the world. He used the word mind instead of soul. You're not the only
Yeah.
mind in the world. So you can manifest all you want, but somebody else could come along and screw it up.
Exactly. But you see, when I'm casting out a desire through an emotional state, it almost doesn't matter to me how it comes about.
Mhm.
And it doesn't. If I get that feeling I want, but it didn't come from XYZ, it came from ABC, I don't care.
Right,
And this is where people get hung up. Like, I'm going to manifest a lottery winning. I'm like, great. Why don't you just manifest that you're super free and your needs are met?
right,
Because it could come from any great source at that point.
right.
We have no idea. You just opened up the options from one to millions. And that's another thing. You know that old saying about the blindfolded person who puts their hand on the elephant and all they can feel is like one tiny patch of rough skin.
Hmm.
But really, there's a huge elephant. I just mangled that, but there's an old saying, something like that.
Yeah.
When we're choosing things in life, we're like the blinded ones with our hand on the elephant, just feeling like it's this rough patch.
Hmm.
There, in my world, there is a force that weaves all of our flows together. Like you and I are interacting right now. We came and like if we were two braids of energy, we just braided together, had a communication, and then we'll split apart and go our separate ways. Tonight, tomorrow, all kinds of things are going to happen to us. And they have something has braided all of these comminglings or prevented certain ones from happening. And the opposite of this, to bring it even more home, is we're floating in utter chaos right now. The world around me is moving. There is no walls. My limbs are falling off. Nothing is coming together in any sort of agreement or knitting together.
Hmm.
So I recognize it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like things are being knit together. So I want to go into that force, that knitting together. And some people might be like, that's God. Could be your universe, could be the quantum data, could whatever.
Hmm.
That is what is arranging the playing board for my piece.
Right.
And I'm saying, here's who I want to experience or what I want to experience, but you figure out the playing board because that is way beyond my pay grade.
Yeah.
And that's what the ocean does, or God does, or the universe does in the realm of manifesting. And you're right. Sometimes it'll have its own ideas.
Yeah.
And
Well,
sometimes I think we make quiet agreements that we're not even aware that we do
and I think we
with
can
it.
all think of examples of something that we really, really thought we wanted, and we got it, and it turned out not to be the best thing, or something that we really, really didn't want, and it happened to us, and it turned out to be the best thing. And
Yes,
I think it takes a certain amount of humility to understand we don't always know what's best. We know the feeling we want, but we don't know the path to take to get there.
precisely. So yeah, when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, let the path reveal itself. Let your dance partner come in. Otherwise, I always say it's like, imagine if you took your partner, you told your partner you want a date. Here's the restaurant. Here's what you're ordering. Here's what you're wearing. Here's the car you're driving. Here's what time we're going there, and here's what time we're leaving.
Mhm.
And everything. Your partner would be like bored.
Yeah, right, right.
They would never date you again. because you would have taken all of the control out of their hands because you're trying to, again, force or control your life. And that's not exactly, what the play is. I decided I want to go out to eat. You pick a great place. I want to have feelings of yumminess and excitement and connection. You figure out how that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the role that I like to get into, because, the way that we try to avoid misery is by controlling more in our lives often. And when we do that, we watch things just, I call it squeezing too hard. Like things just slip out of our hands, or like you said, you start to get the stuff you want and then it doesn't solve it. It's a moving horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Like we always want more of something and we get it. And then we want more of something else. When I was 20, I wanted more salary. Guess what? I've gotten better. I've gotten more money every year. Well, most years. There were a few bad ones in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a moving horizon. Like when is enough enough?
Right. Yeah, that's another great point. We talked earlier and you mentioned we could do a little flow dreaming type of exercise. So can we do that?
Yes. Do we have like 10 minutes or 7?
Sure.
5?
Yeah.
When I go out there, I'm not exactly sure how long we'll be. I'll do my best to make it as short and sweet. Okay. So the foundation of the practice is this. It's not meditation. It's not self-hypnosis. It's not affirmations. It's not creative visualization. It's founded on daydreaming. So that same feeling like when you are just waking up in the morning and you're kind of still asleep and you could kind of sink underneath, but then you're like, no, the alarm's going, and you kind of emerge, or it's like coming up from water sometimes. Daydreaming is very similar. You're doing it in your head. I'm imagining things. And then suddenly you're off someplace else. And you just went through that liminal little space right there. So that's the goal and the aim. I will be a tour guide. I'll show you things that I think will be conducive. I'll give you imagery to play with that I think will be conducive to getting you there. Now, once you're there, probably the one we'll do will just be sort of general. But you can do it around very specific things, like I'm here to heal my heart. I'm here. In fact, I did that with my client earlier today. We had a funeral for some old stuff. Like, we're going to let this, we are absolutely releasing this energy. So you can do all kinds of interesting things once you start to really get in. Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Hi. Closer. And I tend to list to the left when I do it. I don't know why. As you mentioned, I didn't really follow up on it earlier. I also work as an intuitive and a medium. I just read information, and you're seeing one little kaleidoscope of information that I read in our talk today.
Okay. Yeah.
But we're going to go out there and enjoy some of the energies together.
Cool.
Okay. So close your eyes with me. Take a deep breath and just at your own pace. You could yawn. Sigh. I want your body to release with just some big breaths. Your body has probably been bracing. It's probably been holding you up. The world on your shoulders. So go ahead and loosen your hips. Roll your hips and your ribs, just releasing the lower back. Now let that soft, flowing feeling like melting butter in a shaft of sunlight. Let your shoulders drop, all soft and melty. Go ahead and roll your neck a little bit. Open and close your jaw. And relax your brow. Just going to drift for a little bit. Just going to daydream together. I'm going to daydream that we are, in fact, on this beautiful ship. See the ship? Maybe yours is an old pirate ship gleaming with ancient glowing woods. Or maybe it's a sleek yacht, beautiful gleaming in the sunlight. But you stand at the wheel, and it is an old-fashioned captain's wheel, and you grab that wheel. And you're staring out in front of you. And there's an ocean of light floating on an ocean of light. It's frothy and buoyant. It sparkles. It's iridescent. It's all the colors pearlescent. It's just beautiful. You can see little motes of light drifting up in the air, and yet it feels deep, found. As deep as the ocean, as deep as the galaxy, as deep as the universe itself, and yet your little ship just clips right on through. And this ocean around you is holding you. It's holding you like a nest, and you're a little egg. Even as you say, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. And you point out, and there it is. There's a beautiful beach ahead, an island. This beach stretches as far as you can see. It's a big island. You can't see where it ends in either direction. But you bring your little boat there and you wade onto the shoreline. The sands glitter. They're like crushed gems, soft, warm under the sunlight. A sky that's somehow both lit by the sun and yet dappled by stars. Beautiful stars, like you could reach up and pluck one with your hand and hold it like a diamond. There's your boat. There's the soft flowing energy of the ocean of light. And there's the beautiful sand around you, and you are walking now right in the divide between the two. That lip of shoreline where the two meet. You stare out ahead of you and you just feel like that's the right direction. That's my direction. That's the only direction. If I turned around, I'd be going backwards in my life where I've already been. You might even look over your shoulder. You see that? That was 5 minutes ago. That was yesterday. That was 2 years ago. It's all back there. It's all on your beach. It's all inside of you. It all is you. But the next moment, it's just becoming, it's about to, there it is. You stepped right into that next moment. Here it is. What's around you? What's around you in this brand new, beautiful, gorgeous moment in your life? And you say, well, I don't know. There's things I want to have around me. Good, put them there. Feel them now so that when you walk into your next moment, that already knows what you're after. Go ahead, put them now. Put them there. What are they? In fact, you know what? Just pick one up off the beach. Look, there's a beautiful present, a little bit of buried treasure. Reach down and pick that up. Maybe it's a big gift box. Maybe it's a genie's lamp. Maybe it's a big pile of golden coins. Maybe it's something fresh and green, the elixir of life to heal you. Pick it up. Hold it. That's yours. What does it feel like when you have that? Your need is met. You've received it. It's yours now. Claim it, take it, hold it close to you, something you have wanted, something that's a game changer, whatever it is. Would you feel that? Hold it. Allow it to become you, you to become it. It was just there. It was right there. It showed up out of nowhere in your life, in your flow. It came to you. It was brought in by the ocean, consciousness, and God and source, right there into your sands of physical life and activity. Take it. And you do. And you walk with it. And you experience those feelings of satisfaction, and your desire is filled. And you say, this just makes me want to have more desires. And life is laughing and saying, go ahead, have more. That's what you're here for. One desire after another, as long as you can see, go run toward them, have them, drink them into your being and your soul. And as you look down that beach, you realize, I'm not walking into a blank beach. I'm walking into a future filled, crammed, full with all the good things that I could possibly put into it. And certainly many other things that other people are bringing in, both pleasurable or not. But I love those people and I'll allow them to bring them in because I care enough to let them bring in those less pleasurable things. And you're still walking. You're gliding. You're practically flying along this beach, moving second by second and realizing all the things that I desire. I'm just going to feel into them. I'm going to become them. I'm going to let life bring them to me, allow them to be put together inside myself and my life. Then I'm going to show up to them and say, I'm here. I've arrived. Let's do this together. Let's dance. And I'll gulp down that experience. And I'll get better and better at it. Even if the first few aren't quite perfect or right, I'm learning and I want to learn this. I really want to learn this. I want to learn how to be different in this life and be in such a way that I'm filled with everyday joy, everyday contentment. Every day I embrace what shows up and say, oh, you're right on time. You're right here. You are a perfect piece on this puzzle. Come right on in. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And now I let that imagery fade. I let the beach and the beautiful waves and the gorgeous ship fall away. And I remind myself that I'm sitting right here, standing right here in a human body, surrounded by time and space in this very moment. And I come back to present. And I return from flow.
Wow, that's cool. Thank you. It's awesome.
Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that would be very helpful for people to have that imagery and the feelings that come along with it. So yeah, thanks very much for doing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So if you lost track of where you were for even just 30 seconds, you hit flow space.
Mm-hmm.
And for very mental people, it may take a little bit more because they're used to spinning around in their minds, and their minds are a little less, easy feeling about letting go.
Sure.
But the more you practice, the more that will happen. And by the way, I've recorded like 340 different flow dreams for people on all kinds of things. Okay. So if you're interested, if anybody loved that and you want to learn more, I've got them for you. Tons.
Well, let's talk about that. How can people find out more about where these are, get access to what you offer and all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, just like today, I've always taught the technique for free. It's just like I feel like it's a God-given gift we all should know how to do. So what I've done is just expanded on materials to help you really understand what it is and practice getting in it, and then hone in on different areas of your life that you want to shift or change. Mm-hmm. So my website is the best place to go. It's called flowdreaming.com. And flow is with an F, by the way, like Frank, not S sometimes. Yeah. Flow, Flow. If you go there, I have 2 flow dreams that I give away for free: instant alignment and financial abundance, to get people started with the practice. Then I further have a YouTube channel, Flowdreaming. Everything is Flowdreaming in Flowland. Sure. And it's a free multi-part tutorial that you can watch, and I will teach you more deeply about what the practice is. Then to get started, I have, like I said, if you're in Flowdreaming, I have a whole area with courses. I have a mastermind where I meet monthly with my flow people, and we work together. We go into flow together live. But I also have 38 courses talking about everything from developing new, robust and gorgeous friendships at any time in your life, to accessing your God mind, as I call it, which is really being able to go and discover what your highest self wants. Mm-hmm. I have all kinds of courses. Yeah. And then I have the individual playlists around specific things. So think of them like guided meditations. Like you listen to it, you could meditate on your own. You could flow dream on your own. Mm-hmm. But when you have somebody telling you what to do, it takes some of the heavy lifting off. Right. Because they're telling you what to see and feel. So you can just double down on the feeling and the seeing of it. Right. So find a new house, gain inner confidence, create strong, healthy boundaries, resolve family drama, dispel negativity and negative people from your life. I mean, the list is practically endless because over 20 years, I've had a lot of clients and they've all asked for flow dreams on topics. And I'll be like, I'll make one for you. So I've ended up with this huge library to make things inside yourself and outside yourself. Do it all. And
That's
the podcast,
awesome.
Flow Dreaming.
Right.
And I have an app too. So if you have a phone, you can download the app and you'll also get your flow dreams in there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. And I know you've got a few books, so remind people of the books also.
Thanks, Brian. If you're watching this on video, you can see some of them behind me.
Mhm.
Flow Dreaming is the original one. It is a short read. It's actually got a bit of science in there because one of the first things I did was to interview a lot of physicists and ask them about what is it. We talk about energy and it's so woo-woo. Can you give me any basis for this? And boy, did they. So it's a nice read that sort of bridges spirituality with science. And it's an audiobook as well. Oh wait, is it an audiobook? No, it's not an audiobook. It's an ebook. It's an ebook as well.
Okay.
Then I've got Creative Flow Dreaming, which is a follow-up, more philosophical. And then the latest one is Stuff Nobody Taught You.
Mhm.
And that is based on flow dreaming, but it's also based on 20 years of working with thousands of people about the pieces inside of ourself that get broken over time and how to repair them, like that dead zone I was talking about, or grief.
Right.
It's all in there. Here are the techniques. So flow dreaming is one of the techniques, but there's this huge amount, like there's 40 chapters and every single one has an exercise. And I even have a link there to like 100 PDF worksheets if a person really wants to go deep into it. It's modeled after a program that I taught for 10 years, actually, to my students that I eventually put into that book. And that is the audiobook, which I narrate.
Awesome. That sounds.
And be careful, it's full of F-bombs. So this is another aside. So if you're sensitive to language, maybe not. But it's because it's punchy, it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks. This has been so much fun. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, to meet you, to learn about this. I'm really excited about sharing this with the listeners. So thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Brian. It was such a pleasure. You're a wonderful host.
All right. Have a great afternoon. Hey there, if you liked this episode, come on over and talk about it. Let me know what you liked. If you didn't like this episode, come on over and talk about it. Let me know what you didn't like. Go to grieftogrowth.com/community and look for Talk About the Podcast. I'll see you there.